So now that most of the painting is done, I'm going to work on the hair. What I'm going to do is make her hair a bit more on the brown red hair. So I have burnt umber and yellow ochre, and I have a bit of cadmium red light. So I'm mixing with a white brush. Should have a dark first layer. I'm going to need this, and I'm using the corner or the side of my brush because I want to have a kind of a movement of the hair showing. You don't want it to be too flat. So I'm using more of the dark brown as a start. So the hair in the back is going to be darker than, almost blending with the background. So I'm using a lot more of the burnt umber. And just kind of loose, quick brush strokes for now. Mostly burnt umber, because I have a layer already of, that's a dry layer of a combination of burnt umber and cadmium red light. So I'm just going to go one more layer, and then really the hair in the back is not going to be highlighted too much. A bit of red in here, not too much though, just to make my color more of like a burnt sienna in here. You can see as soon as I put the red in, you could see that I can see a bit of that highlights in there. So I used just a bit of cadmium red light with burnt umber. So now I'm going to switch to a smaller flat, and I'm going to see if this is going to work. I'm just going to take some cadmium red light and burnt umber. Come over here. I always like to start with more of a darks than a light color. With the movement of the hair. I can see skin in here. I'm not worried about this because I can open it up later on. I can add the skin later on. So for now, I have a good layer of medium tone or dark tone. Just trying to get a round brush, a good round brush. This is not very good. I'll start with a new one. This is a new brush. All right, now let's try to take yellow ochre, add some red in it. This is burnt sienna. I'm going to put it in it because I want to highlight now. I just want to add some highlights. So it's yellow ochre, cadmium red light, and that's an earthy orange, adding to it a bit of burnt sienna, and let's see if this is going to work. So I'm going to find where the light is. See, I can see a bit of light over here, a bit of highlight. So with my round brush, I'm just going to highlight exactly where I see the light. So light usually hits the hair in the same spot because the head is not flat. So when you do that, when you highlight all over, the hair looks flat because it's the same everywhere. So when you want to show that the hair is higher on this side, you highlight that side only because this is where the hair is going up, and that's where you can see it. So this is kind of a medium tone, sorry. Medium tone. Now, let it dry. That's good. Maybe a bit more kind of, and it's, you can see that the highlight is at the same, in the same spot. It's like a band going across. And as soon as it goes to the back, it disappears. So it's mostly here because again, the head is not flat, it's rounded. So when it goes in, this area here is darker. And I'm going to darken this later on as well. So now, again, now I'm going to take a bit of that highlight again, and head is rounded right here up. So this is where I'm going to see a bit of highlights. And it goes with the movement of the head, more round, a round movement. This is more like a glazing technique. So my color is not that thick. I'm adjusting the colors if I want a bit more red. Especially when you see the highlights, then you can see the strong red or the blonde hair or whatever the hair looks like, or color of the hair. You can see it where the highlight is. That's when you see it. Trying to keep my color, my paint wet, a bit wet. So okay, a bit more highlights, maybe down here. Trying to put the highlight where the hair bends. And I'm keeping my color, trying to keep my color wet. Hints of highlights here and there, not the whole hair, just hints. The whole hair, if you do the whole hair, it becomes too much, too strong. You just want a hint of a movement. Putting highlight will give me a very good idea where my darks should be, where I need to darken. Now this highlight is medium tone. I will be highlighting a little bit more to give it some shiny movement. So this part here should definitely be darker. So I'm mixing burnt umber and burnt sienna, because her hair is not black. Now I'm going to come here and kind of darken this area here as much as I can. I need more dark, more burnt umber in here. Again. So now I can see I'm going against in the other direction. So I have a really kind of flowy, wispy end of the brush stroke. I don't want to have a harsh, I want this to be wispy right there. Good. Now, if I find by the time it's dry that it's not dark enough, I'm going to use black. So for now, some areas really, even if it's red head, some areas sometimes will have to be red, black, dark black. Okay, now I'm going to go in here slowly, take some reds, burnt umber, go in here. Really, the first, what I'm doing right now is I really don't want it to look strandy, like not strands of hair showing. Definitely no need for a strong line to show the hair where it's divided into left and right. There's no need for a strong, the movement of the hair will tell us that it is darker. There is a line right there, a hairline. So now, with the round brush that I have, I am using burnt umber, a bit of red in my burnt umber from before, good brush, and more like a glaze. I'm going to put a couple of wispy hair because this is harsh. This is too strong. So once it's dry, I'll go back and open up this and adjust this part here using the skin tone. Now her hair looks like it's stuck to her head. So I'm going to take again my highlights, and the reason I have cadmium yellow light here is just because I'm going to mix it a bit with the red to get an orangey color. So when I start doing my highlights and I mix my orange with burnt sienna right next to it. So I'm making my burnt sienna. I'm putting orange in my burnt sienna. If you have cadmium orange, just use cadmium orange. That will be fine. I will have to turn this around a bit so I can, and you can see slowly I'm highlighting again, and I'm doing that wispy part. Okay. Again, take the same. I am really not worried about the color if it turns out to be too light, too dark. Well, too light at this point. It's okay. I can go back and glaze it later on. Glaze the color I want. All I want right now is to get a very nice kind of movement of the strand where the highlights are. So my detail of the strands where I'm showing the highlight, the color of the hair is where the highlight is. And my detail is kind of soft. Some of it is, you can see the hair, parts of it. Some of it you don't. You see just a mass of color. Again, I'm going to highlight this. Take some white. And take burnt umber, put some white in it. That will give me skin tone. This is the easiest way for a skin tone. And I'm going to come here. I'm putting the skin tone again. I'd rather put the skin tone and put the hair over it because I can control the amount of hair I want to put there rather than the skin tone needs to be darker in there. I'm getting very strong dark strands of hair, especially around the face. So this hair needs to be, instead of using strong colors, kind of thick color over here for the hair, I need to glaze my color on. So this is damage control right now. Trying to get the same highlight that I have right here. Not as much, but just a bit of highlight in here. I'm gonna let it dry. Meanwhile, while it's drying, I'm gonna go back. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna go back. Even this one here is a bit too strong, too thick. It needs to be wispy, kind of flowy. Soften this a bit, and then we'll put it on again once it's dry. I'm just trying to get the skin tone back here. And then get this going, get this going here, soften all that. And it's okay, these things happen. When you're painting, you realize that you need to adjust something, you do it after. That's part of painting. You have to be very patient. Take your time, adjust, darken, highlight, whatever you need needs to be done. I really should stop using painting this area here. In my brush, come to this part where I have my burnt sienna. I'm using the burnt sienna that is Winsor & Newton. It's a bit more orangey than the rest of burnt siennas, like golden and Liquitex. So if you do have Liquitex or golden and you would like to use the burnt sienna, I would recommend to add a bit of orange to it, especially for the face, for the skin tone. Now this burnt sienna right now, I'm trying to highlight it a bit with a bit of Naples yellow and a bit of white. And you see it's like an orangey burnt sienna. So I have a burnt sienna right there. Then I added a bit of Naples yellow and a bit of white. So I'm getting kind of an orangey. I'm going to come over here and make my color, make sure that my color is transparent, kind of. So let's see. Ah, yes. Now, this is a stronger highlight because it has white in it. So the stronger the highlight, the smaller the area where you're putting it. That's what gives you a shiny look, because the shiny look, usually the shiny part is not all over the hair. It's in one spot, and it's a band that goes all around. And you see that looks great. So now if I find that the color is a bit too light, too white, and it needs to be more on the red side, I can wait for it to dry and then I can glaze it. Glaze the right color over it. So all I need right now, I'm not concerned about anything else but that shiny part. Same on this side. I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to take a small area and I'm going to kind of glaze the shiny part, glaze it. You see how beautiful and shiny this part is. All of that can be glazed later on. So when it's glazed, the white that you see, because of the white I'm using, of course, and I'm using with my white, I'm using a bit of cadmium yellow light. Mixing it, cadmium yellow light, and mixing it. So I'm using cadmium yellow light, white, to get that golden color, and mixing it with the hair color. Again, on this side, just right here, don't go all the way to the back. When you go all the way to the back, you bring the hair, you bring the head further out. This should stay in the back. Okay, good. Let it dry so we can glaze it. I'm gonna go back to this area here, and with my round brush, take some burnt sienna and add a bit of the light burnt sienna in it too. Make sure that it's more like a glaze, so there's water in there. And come here. Oh, that's much better. It's going to take a couple of layers, but that's okay. I'd rather control the softness of the color of the hair here. I'm going to take a couple of strands of burnt umber. Okay, good. Now let's add a bit of yellow ochre in here, exactly where the light is. Should wait for it to dry a bit. It's easier to control, to add that burnt yellow ochre in here. Okay, we're getting there. Put a bit of more burnt umber. Okay, now all I need to do is highlight a bit and I'm okay. Now, while I'm letting this area here dry, so I can highlight it, I'm going to go back to the rest of the hair where it needs more attention. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so now I'm going to take a bit of black. And with a wider brush, I take some black, mix it with a bit of burnt umber. Now, let's go back here. This needs to be darker. Highlights will look better if they're surrounded by a darker value. They look a lot more impressive and realistic when they are surrounded by dark value. Just not everywhere. I'm putting black, trying to follow the shape of the hair. Especially the hair in the back shouldn't look too light. All right. Now, this hair right here looks a bit too blonde, maybe. Try to highlight a bit this area, not much, just a bit, enough. I'm mixing white with cadmium yellow light and burnt sienna. And I'm going to come here and highlight a bit some of these strands. All right, that's good. That's very, very good. I don't want to spend too much time on the hair. All right, now, last thing I'm going to do is take cadmium red light, mix it with burnt sienna, and create a glaze. Make a glaze. Make it runny, make it more like a watercolor. Now the cadmium red light shouldn't be too much. To the burnt sienna ratio should be more than cadmium red light. That gives me right there. All right, let's take white brush, pick up some of this glaze. It has to be a good glaze. It has to be really thin and go over this part that I painted. And voila. My highlight that looked yellowy right here and too light. When I put my glaze over, it changes to a beautiful redhead color. You can't see it, unfortunately. You can't see the red in here, but there is red in the hair. I will send a picture. I'll take a picture and email it, and you can see the beautiful, shiny red hair. I'm going to put some down here, and really enough. That's good.